All right, here we go. You wouldn't believe all the stuff the hoops we had to climb through to get this. So, the Pittsburgh Penguins Q&A, they fired Todd Reirden on Friday afternoon, just about noon, the stroke of noon, actually. Check out the earlier video, and we'll do the little YouTube beggar thing, like and subscribe. Put out the call for questions, actually, about 10 minutes before we all got the news. So obviously the questions then coming after that were all about who's going to replace Todd Reirden? Is Mike Sullivan going to leave? So let me just tackle those before we get to everything here. One, I really don't know who's going to replace Todd Reirden. I do know that whomever takes over the power play will have to, A, get through to the 4 or 5 all-star / Hall of Fame players. B, also have a playbook and stick to it and enforce it and enforce execution. The number of times you saw just the standing around, the read and react that never actually reacted except to pass the buck, that's the sort of thing that had to drive everybody nuts. I don't think Mike Quinn will be the guy, although I was expecting a ton of those rumors today. The one name I will toss out, and only because he has a reputation for being very good with the young players, was DJ Smith, who was terminated in Ottawa. The other name, actually, as it comes to me, would be Jonathan Gruden's father. John Gruden, coaching the Toronto Marlies. Gee, where did Kyle Dubas come from? Now, Gruden is also kind of the hot rising star of the offseason. He was expected to get the Senators' job pretty quickly. However, he hasn't. It's been a week, and I think as of yesterday, it was reported that he wasn't even interviewing. Let me get this right here. or close enough. So if Gruden is available out of Toronto, that would be a little bit of insurance against Mike Sullivan, right? And a guy who is one of these up-and-coming smart guys in the game. So those would be my two quick, off the top of my head sort of things. All right, so in terms of Mike Sullivan, if Mike Sullivan truly were that unhappy where he was going to leave, and make no mistake, I mean, most of us have always had bosses, and there's every now and then there's the argument, there's the friction, and you have two choices. You have it out, and then you go to your corners, and the boss makes the call. You either get on board or you get going. Since Mike Sullivan did not get going on Friday, I'm going to assume that there won't be any further changes to the coaching staff unless Mike Vellucci gets a head coaching job. And he's been a finalist for the last couple of years. So let me grab the Q&A here. I'm actually recording on the laptop and using my phone to do this. And I know you're... I'm dodging the Mike Sullivan questions intentionally. I'm kind of... What else am I going to say? He's not leaving. Dubas isn't firing him, obviously. So what else do you want me to say? All right, so we got a ton of questions. I think 25 today. Bill Whitfield asks, who can they bring in to fix the power play? Coaches, players, psychologists? How about an exorcist, huh? Nailersburg, when could we possibly see Yoel Blomqvist and Braden Yeager in the NHL? I'm going to cheat a little bit here, Nailersburg, because I spent a week in Wilkes-Barre last week, or Wilkes-Barre, I guess it technically is, getting an answer to that exact question on Blomqvist. Dave and I disagree a little bit on the importance of the AHL playoffs. I thought Dubas's comments in his post-season press conference were very pointed, specific, and probably planned. He had to know the question about Alex Nedeljkovic and Tristan Jarry was coming. So for the first time, I think, in my entire career, I led off a press conference like that and just fired away. And he said, listen, we've got Blomqvist in the AHL pushing for the NHL. We want to see how he does in the AHL playoffs. So I spent a couple of days watching him practice, watched games 1 and 2. Spam calls all day. So I watched games 1 and 2. By the way, there's only one Pittsburgh media person who made the trip to Wilkes-Barre and Allentown for game 2. That was this dumb guy. But I really did need a good look at what we were talking about. I wanted my own eyes. I think, I've got a pretty good track record and, and all of that stuff. And Blomqvist didn't have very good games. If I'm being bluntly honest, at best, he didn't help his team. He actually probably hurt his team. He was pretty rough. I'm going to put the full scouting report because there were 3 areas of his game that I circled that are going to need to be addressed this summer if indeed he's going to get to the NHL in the fall. I don't think that would be prudent. I think the NHL players are going to find that little piggy bank slot and would make his life a little bit miserable. I think a bit more AHL seasoning would be necessary. Braden Yeager is a different story, though, because I didn't see a whole lot to be impressed by last summer and the Prospects Challenge up in Buffalo. But he looks much different on video in the WHL playoffs. He's playing downhill. He's backing off the defenseman with speed and aggression and just a bit of ill intent. There's a big difference between junior defensemen and the professionals, but he's playing between the dots. He's playing fast. He's a 14th overall selection. He will get every shot to make the team in the fall. Does he make it? I don't think so, but I've been surprised before. So if I'm punting your question, Nailersburg, I would say Blomqvist mid-season if there's an opening, and Yeager not until 25-26. Because he's going to have to go back to the WHL. Don't forget, he can't go to Wilkes-Barre until 25-26 because he'll only be 19 next year. Let's see here. I will post the link to that story right here in the comment section. From Kosher Calzone, do I expect any more coaching staff changes? Nope. John Columbus, what is worse, the power play or blowing leads within seconds of obtaining them? Yeah, those were both pretty. Those were both pretty good symptoms of a team that didn't have its head on straight, right? Can be if Mike Sullivan. Oh, actually, that question was asked before Reirden was fired. I don't understand why he wasn't canned during the season. Worst power play I've ever seen. I think it was a matter of respect. Listen, if it was the coach's fault and they identified that just by changing coaches, everything would have turned around immediately, I suspect they would have. There was obviously a lot more problems on that power play. Just the chemistry, the fit, everything. Drizzy16, who is the most likely to get moved in the offseason? Raquel, Jarry, Graves, or Riley Smith? Get 3 questions in here, Drizzy. You're making use of the 280 characters, aren't you, bud? Oh, now it all went away. So who's most likely to get traded? I'm going to say Riley Smith because he's got 1 more year on his deal. He's much easier to trade. I don't think Raquel, because of his injury, because of his very down year, 37 points, just not going to cut it. I think, and he's got 4 more years left on his contract. That's not going to be the way to do it. Let me find the Q&A again. Arg. There it is. Okay. Now I have to get back to the point where I was. There's Drizzy's question. I also don't think there's much of a market for Ryan Graves, although if I'm in the GM's chair, I'm working my butt off to make that happen. I did lay out the scenario by which the Penguins could trade Graves. You're going to have to take a bad contract in return. There's just no two ways about it. You have to take a second. You have to take a contract back, and one that you're not going to want. Let's see here. Who from the younger prospects is on the team next year? That's going to be an interesting one because Sam Poulin's going to get every opportunity to make the team. I'm a little bit skeptical if he's got the skating necessary to be a solid every night contributor. I think he's going to have to play out of his skates in the NHL, and you just can't do that for 82 games. Tristan Brose, I really liked what I saw from him. He only played 2 AHL games. He signed, showed up, and played. He was significantly quicker and more agile and more aggressive than I saw him last summer when he came for the June or July development camp. Ville Koivunen. Now, this is going to be one of the controversial ones. The fans are going to be all up my backside saying, oh, you don't understand. You don't know what you're talking about. He had monster stats in the Finnish Elite League. 54 points in 56 games. As a 20-year-old, that put him in pretty elite company. However, I graded his skating at average at best, more like mediocre. There again, I did a deep dive scouting report on him, and I should post that in the link too here, because that was behind the paywall too. I should make y'all pay for this brilliance, right? But I was looking for his skating. I was also looking for his offensive creativity, how he handled the professionals in tight traffic. Was he able to create space, get to space, all of those sorts of things? And I came away with a poor grade on him. I know the Penguins brass was really pumping him up, but I didn't see it. He's got a lot of work to do. You know, maybe the bigger ice in Finland, or maybe just nervous, but he did play 12 games with the Chicago Wolfpack last year. So it wasn't his first experience on the small North American rinks. And Pony, what's Alexei Ponomarov, the other top prospect, or the other good prospect, readily available. They got in the Jake Gensel trade. He got hurt in his second game with the Wilkes-Barre Penguins, so didn't see him, and he'll be out until midsummer, from what I was told. It was a bit more significant than just a little tweak, so he might even be behind in the fall. You're just not going to see those guys. Let's see here. Ken B says it didn't look like EK65 dished the puck into Malkin's wheelhouse on the power play. Could that have been the problem? A little bit. Somebody else, by the way, Ken, noticed that very thing. Somebody else inside the Penguins organization, who I trust, just said, watch, the pass is never right there. But don't forget, at midseason, they split the power play. So Malkin went with Chris Letang. Crosby and Carlson went on the other unit. Didn't really help anybody. So in terms of problems, I'd put that well down the list. Although the chemistry with Malkin and Carlson was as bad as I've ever seen two players. Was it Winnipeg? Maybe Minneapolis? Maybe Minnesota the night before, when the Penguins were in the final minute, pulled the goalie 6-on-5, Malkin and Carlson at the top of the zone just playing catch. Back and forth and back. Neither taking extra space, neither aggressively pushing the defense, and they killed 20 seconds. And I could hear Penguins fans just throwing things back in Pittsburgh. Those guys really just never had any chemistry. Just didn't work. Logan. Got... I'm going to pause Logan's question because there's two bombshell questions in here, and I'm going to make you wait and watch for them. So S. Christoph asks, how would I spend the current cap space in the upcoming UFA market? The Penguins have about somewhere between $10 and $11 million when all is said and done. I'm on record as saying this. I would spend it on a center, second line center. One of the readers about a month ago kind of threw a name at me, Matt Duchene, and I poo-pooed it. I was like, I don't really think so. But then I've been watching him in the playoffs, and I did some more digging here before we did the video. I've got some friends in the Dallas organization, so I picked up the phone and I made a call. They've been extremely happy with Matt Duchene. His skating, his playmaking. He played in the middle this year between Mason Marchment and Tyler Seguin. The AFP folks, the AFP analytics, have started their deep dive into projecting contracts for next year. And Duchene being a UFA, they projected him 3 years, $6.5 million a year. I would be a buyer at that. I'm a little soured on Elias Lindholm. I thought Lindholm was the guy at midseason, but his inability to play well in Vancouver in the Rick Tocchet system, I don't think would bode well for his fit with the Penguins. The other name I'd really circle for you, Christoph, is Chandler Stevenson. Blood and guts sort of third line center, but pretty good scoring acumen too. 55-point guy. His contract, he's 30 years old. Duchene is going to be 34 in January. So 3-year deal, I would go with that. With Stevenson, he's 30. You're talking a 5-year deal at about $5.5 million. There again, I think I'm buying at that price. So that's how I would spend the money. I would probably pocket a good bit of money as well. Listen, if you're going to start rebuilding eventually, and all these teams, all these drunken GMs are going to spend on July 1st, if you can pocket several million bucks, and then these GMs get buyer's remorse and have to make trades, now you're in the driver's seat. They have to unload a bad contract, and you start picking up draft picks for your extra salary cap space, and maybe even an extra first rounder in 2025. Not bad, right? So that strategy shouldn't be overlooked. Let's see here. Logan wants to know who I like for available free agents to fill out the third and the fourth line. Logan, boring question, man. Actually, there's only about one spot anyway. You get a fourth line guy for peanuts, and you can shop around. I think that's going to be the least of my columns this summer. I'm going to punt that. We'll see who's available closer to July 1st. I don't think you're going to go out and get a 35-year-old. You're going to look for some guy with some broad shoulders and missing teeth and a bit of an temper and add him on the Penguins' fourth line. Let him go wreak some havoc around the opposing team's net, loosen up some defensemen, get some loose pucks going, then you turn the forecheck and everything swings from that. All right. Let's get to, where is it? Okay, Logan asks. Logan, this is a different Logan. Logan Osman. So we're sitting outside the playoffs, next trade deadline. Do you see Malkin or Letang getting traded, barring they waive their no-trade clause? Well, actually, they don't have a no-trade clause. They've got a full no-movement clause. Can't do anything. Logan could see Letang wanting to go to Montreal, Malkin to Florida. All right, let's tackle this. I don't see Malkin moving. The three of them, now including Sidney Crosby, have decided they're going out like Butch and Sundance and Butch. Blaze of glory, the three of them. Malkin's about to the end. He's got 2 years left next year and the year after that, if he makes it that far. Father Time is catching him in a hurry. So I don't see Malkin being that guy with 3 Stanley Cup rings already in the trophy case with a Hart Trophy, Art Ross, Conn Smythe. Don't see him being the guy that says, "Up, I want to go win a Stanley Cup. Give me one more shot at it." Just don't see that. I think he'd rather skate off with the Penguins than have that awkward moment coming back in a different jersey. Chris Letang's a little bit different because he has 4 years left. The end of next year, he'll have 3 years left. I have long thought that Ottawa is his landing spot. He would be an immediate captain. You move 10 miles out of town, you're in Quebec where they speak French, obviously. And I think Letang would outlast Crosby and Malkin. And with that in mind, he might be a little more amendable to it, not because he's any less loyal, but because he's probably seeing life after the other two. Maybe Crosby goes to 50. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Also, the reason I won't slam the door on you, Logan, and say no chance that anybody gets traded, losing does a lot to you. It can buckle the toughest steel. So if they're losing again next year and they don't see hope, you really could see that sort of talk begin to percolate. All right, that's 20 minutes. And David wants to know, what right-handed pure shooter should they target in free agency? Well, there's only one, like, really top-end shooter, right? At least right-handed. Jake Gensel's left. They're not going to go spend 10 or 12 million on the bread man. So what are you going to do? I'd have to look into it. I mean, I really want to see, because listen, who's available now is not going to be who's available on July 1st. I'm a little bit leery of spending too much time chasing high end, especially a luxury item like a right-handed sniper. Make no mistake, that's all it would be. That would be a luxury for the Penguins. They've got other needs. They've got to bolster the defense. They've got to add the depth, and they've got to add depth scoring. That's what they really need to do. Are you going to spend all of your money on one player? No, I think you have to spend it on 3 or 4 to solidify the team. So that's where I am at with that. All right, kids. I'm going to disassemble this studio and calm down. This wasn't coffee. So this took me an hour and a half to build up and do. And Dan's frustration, Dan's patience was just about at the end when we started trying this. You can see I'm trying StreamYard. If this goes well, I guess I'll subscribe to that, and we'll be able to take callers and do all kinds of different things in the coming Q&A. So appreciate you as always. Check out those articles there for PHN Plus. Like, subscribe, and keep coming to Pittsburgh Hockey Now every day, because I'm not taking any days off. You know that about me by now. All right. Have fun.